I am Tiffany Hardman, a Partnerships Manager for the US for AECC, and this morning I am joined by Dr. Elizabeth Tanaka, Associate Director of International Missions at Baylor University, to discuss all things Baylor. Elizabeth, would you please introduce yourself for our audience?
Absolutely. My name is Elizabeth Tanaka, and I do work at Baylor University, which I love. And I work with our third party recruiters, such as AECC, and get to be your liaison to Baylor University. So I am the person that you can always contact with questions or concerns, and I will help you with applications. And I'm really excited to tell you about why I love Baylor and why I think it's a great fit for your students.
Excellent. Well, thank you again so much for taking the time to join us. So we are going to talk today about the Baylor Advantage. We're going to cover everything from admissions to research and student support for our international students. We're really excited this morning/evening to learn more about Baylor. And to begin, I'm hoping that you can share what you feel sets Baylor apart from other universities. A lot of times this is the first question our students or families will ask. So let's take it from the top.
Okay, so let's start very big picture and we'll go down a little bit smaller. Big picture is Baylor's located in Texas, right in the middle of the United States. So many students think that they need or want to go to California or New York, the West Coast or the East Coast, and they don't consider Texas. But I'm here to tell you that Texas is absolutely the best state. Number one, because I live here, but number two, because our economy is booming. We have so many job opportunities. Businesses are coming to Texas from other states. We have all kinds of Fortune 500 companies that are leaving California to come to Texas because we have a lower tax bracket. We don't have a Texas income tax. It's so much better for their business success to be in the state of Texas. So our students have huge advantages when it comes to finding jobs after graduation and internships while they're still in school. They can go in person, and the companies come in person to Baylor University to interview our students. So, great state. Let's go a little bit smaller. We're in a great city. Waco, Texas is a mid-sized city. And it exists because Baylor University was there first. And so the city is very, very supportive of the university. They come to all of our events. They donate goods to our events. They are ready to help students however they can. And again, that translates to some really great internship opportunities and employment opportunities after graduation. State, city, Baylor itself, the university. We're down to the smaller one. So Baylor is, I like to think, kind of all the things that you want in a university. We are a mid-sized university where our enrollment is about 15,000 students. So we are not one of the University of Texas that has 55,000 students. It's mid-size. That means you see the same people on campus, you get to know your professors, your classes are not huge. You'll never be in one of the seminar classes of 300 people. We just don't have those. You're going to be in a class with, maybe 20 students. And as you move up in your courses, you'll be in a class with 8 students and your professors. So you get a small university feeling from being on campus. However, we have all of the benefits and the resources of a huge campus. We are a designated R1 research institute, which means that we have incredible research facilities and opportunities for students. That's very rare at a mid-sized university. And honestly, I believe there are only 34 Research One designated universities in the entire United States. And so it's really a prestigious designation. It gives us a lot of good publicity because we're always publishing research studies. So Baylor's really great because you can feel like you are a member of the Baylor family, but you also have resources of a huge school where you might feel a little bit lost. So that's one of
Absolutely.
the reasons I think Baylor's a good fit for international students.
That is super helpful. And I really like the way that you frame that from kind of like largest to smallest, because I think that sometimes students can maybe not like ignore, but not think about how important the surrounding community really is and why it
Right.
might make sense to consider, especially as you're saying, somewhere between the coasts. And as someone who's based in the Midwest, I can't agree with you more how important it is to get in the middle of the country. And
Yes.
I really like, I didn't know that Waco is kind of built up around Baylor. And so
Yeah.
it's really important to know that relationship. I also went to a university that was very well integrated in the community, and I can tell you I experienced so many benefits from that personally. And I know that the international students on my campus did as well. We're going to talk a lot more in detail about a lot of the kind of like overview items that you touched on throughout our conversation today. So really excited about how you set that up and really excited to learn more. Kind of starting from another early question that we get from our students, we'll talk about the application process here for starters. So
Sure.
could you walk us through the application evaluation process for international students generally, making sure that students understand the application process kind of from start to finish and what to expect, really provides a lot of comfort and guidance to them early on.
Absolutely. So college applications are very similar. All of the applications are going to want to know your contact information. They want to know what major you plan to pursue so they can get you in touch with an academic advisor as quickly as possible. But there are a couple of things about the Baylor application that you should know. One is even after the pandemic, we continue to be test optional. That's an interesting one because students often worry, oh, if I don't turn in an SAT or an ACT exam, maybe I won't be considered for scholarships. Not at Baylor. Test
Okay.
optional. Yeah, test optional has no penalty. We literally don't care. Um, when when we get an application turned in, we're going to review it holistically. So we're going to try to look at everything the student has given us. And so I'm going to give you a little advice today about some things that are not required, but that are very helpful. So of course, your transcript is required. And yes, we do have minimum GPA requirements. We're looking for a 3.0 at the undergraduate level. But there's always a little room to work there. If a student's GPA is a little bit less, we're not going to throw it in the trash. We're still going to review it. And that's where that holistic review comes in handy because we're not only looking at GPA. We want to know what kind of extracurricular activities a student has. Were they in a club, an athletics club, a movie making club, a student leadership club, whatever they're interested in, we want to know about it. So we think that it's very helpful if students will provide a little statement of purpose, letting us know who they are. That is honestly, as I was preparing for this and thinking, what does a really successful application do? The answer is it allows us who are looking at the application to get to know that this student is a real person. Sometimes we get applications and they say, I'd love to go to Baylor because Baylor is a Research One institute, and I think that the resources are wonderful, and I think that it will prepare me for my career. Okay, I already know that. I work at Baylor. So you're telling me about Baylor. I want you to tell me about you. Why do you think Baylor's a good fit? And it might be something as interesting as I really love surfing. And I found out that Baylor University, even though it's in the middle of Texas, we have a surf club because we have a surfing facility in Waco. So it could be something like that. Waco is famous for the Magnolia Empire, which is started by two of our alums. and they now have a TV network and a cooking show and a stores, and they have a coffee shop and they have a restaurant. People come from all over the world to visit the Magnolia silos. And so if you've ever heard of those and you put in your essay, like, hey, I watched the TV show Fixer Upper, we're going to think, oh, you will love Waco. Yes, we want you to come. So any kind of information that helps us realize this is a real person is very, very helpful in the application. And the other piece of advice I would give students who are just beginning the application process is to please be interactive with your admissions counselors, both your admissions counselor with AECC and your Baylor admissions counselor, because you're going to get emails that say, thank you for submitting an application. You can delete that email because it's not very important, or you can say, hey, thanks. I'm really excited about Baylor. And you know what? Our data system tracks all of those interactions. So you start accumulating one interaction, two interactions, three interactions. Ask a question. The more interaction we see, the more likely we are to think, this is a good candidate for Baylor. They're very interested in Baylor. So tell us about yourself, submit your transcript, but also submit things that aren't covered in the transcript. Things other than your GPA. What makes you special? What makes you you? And interact with your counselor. Those are my best pieces of advice.
I love that. And in a past life, I also was working in an admissions office, or I started doing that, for years. And I was telling students the same thing. So it's really heartening to hear that it hasn't changed in terms of the holistic review process. Yeah, we're looking at numbers just to make sure that you're prepared to be successful at the institution. But who are you? How are you going to stand out? And I love your point about I already know about Baylor. I work here. Tell me about you. That's something I don't know about. I also always advised students because sometimes students would say well, I have a lot of, family responsibilities. I care for my grandmother or I watch younger siblings. And so I'm not as involved in extracurriculars. And I would really encourage them, that's still part of who you are. And that's how you're spending your time. And it still shows application readers that you know how to manage responsibilities, that you know how
Yes.
to be involved in your community in that way. So it's still, even if it's, you don't think of it as a line on your CV officially, it's still really important, and it still adds to who you are and how you would contribute to such a tight-knit community like Baylor and Waco, and as you're kind of going back out on the circles. So it's really encouraging to hear that that's still so important when you're looking at applications and potential students.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so when you're reviewing applications, you mentioned that you are test optional, which is really great to know. Are there any other key factors that you prioritize, or is it really just tell me who you are as a person? I'll see the data points, but I really need to know who's behind that.
I think that's an accurate statement. We're assuming that if you are applying to Baylor, you probably are quite close to meeting our admissions requirements. Otherwise, you wouldn't apply.
Sure.
And so we're going to look at the GPA and we're going to look at English proficiency because, of course, we want to be sure that we are welcoming students who have the best chances to be successful, because that's our goal, is for every student to be wildly successful. If the students aren't successful, we're not successful and we're going to close down. So it's in our best interest to make sure that we're accepting students who are either close and we're going to be able to work with them and support them and make sure that they're successful. But yes, I think that us knowing who the student is, also, I think it's an important thing to remember that students are in competition for a seat at the university. We kind of don't like to talk about that, but it is competitive. And so part of what students can communicate to us is, hey, here's why I think Baylor University is going to benefit from having me as a student. It might be something like, my mother has breast cancer, and I'm really interested in doing cancer research. And we think, okay, you are motivated. This is something that touched your family. You are going to be a great researcher because you really want to see improvement in that area. Or it might be something like you said, where a student says, I've been responsible for taking care of my grandmother, or I've been responsible for caring for younger siblings. And we look at that student's application and see, oh, you want to be an education major. Perfect. You already have experience. You want to do gerontology. You want to study psychology to work with elderly people and make their lives easier. You have a great connection to that. And so we know you're going to be a really dedicated student. So, yeah, let us know what you want to do in the future. Baylor's always looking, if you say, I would like to be president of my home country, we're going to mark that down and go, yeah, we would love to have an alum who's president of their country. Um, just next week on Monday, I'm welcoming a Baylor alum, and he is the president of Sampurna University in Indonesia. Super excited to welcome back such a prestigious alum. That's wonderful. We're really excited to hear about him and hear about opportunities in Indonesia. But you never know where your life is going to go. You make your plan and you do your best for that to work. But yeah, let us know about you, the student, but also how do you envision your future? How does Baylor play a part in that future coming true? So that definitely we would love to know about things like that. And your counselor may email you and say, oh, I see that you did a summer camp in cybersecurity. Have you thought about doing cybersecurity as a major? Please respond to that email. Let your counselor know, either, yes, I didn't know that was a major you offered. And suddenly you will get all kinds of information about that major. Or you might say, yeah, the camp was fun, but that's not what I want to do with my life. Here's what I'm interested in. Fantastic. Let us know.
I love that you went both ways on that example with both like, yes, it was amazing. And I hope to incorporate that in my future. And also like, actually what I learned was that this isn't for me. Both of
Right?
those are really important as you're trying to figure out as a prospective student what you want next and what makes sense for you. Knowing what doesn't is still part of that journey and still really critical. And I'm glad also that you
Exactly.
brought up the like interacting with counselors again, both at AECC and at Baylor, because I think for some students, especially if we're talking about, prospective undergraduate students, they're quite young. It can be very intimidating, but actually it's great practice. One, as you've mentioned, it really helps set you apart as a potential student, and as the admissions staff is trying to learn who wants to come join their community. And two, when you are a student in the US, you are expected to be a little bit more independent. There are a lot of support services available to you, and we'll touch on those specifics at Baylor a little bit later. But you are really encouraged to seek out help, to ask questions, to really understand the resources that are available to you and take advantage of them. So it's very good practice to start so early when maybe it can be a little less intimidating just over email or over Zoom initially, and give you that confidence that you need to be doing that as you're looking for research opportunities as a current student, as you're looking for internships as a current student. So that's really solid advice to kind of build those good habits
Yes.
and to build that confidence. I know that you mentioned particularly that you're looking for, correct me if I'm wrong, about a 3.0 US GPA or
Yes.
equivalent, but that if students are kind of close or maybe fall just below that, they do have the opportunity still. They shouldn't count themselves out too early. So I'm wondering if you have some tips or could elaborate on some more of those tips for students that maybe find themselves kind of on the cusp. Interacting with their counselors is definitely one we've talked about, but do you have others that you could share?
Yes. For one, your GPA is a tiny part of who you are. So don't focus on that so much, especially if it's a little bit under. Go ahead and say to your counselor, I would say right out, hey, I know my GPA is not quite what you want, But hey, here's other things that make me unique. And it could be the things that we've already talked about. I went to this summer camp and I found out I like this. Or my GPA is lower because I did have responsibility for caring for my
Mhm.
siblings. It was hard to do homework. That is completely understandable. And we love knowing about that because then when someone looks at that application and says, this person's GPA is 3.75, maybe we want to put them in the waiting list category. Your counselor can advocate for you and go, oh, yeah, it's 3.75, but while the student's in high school, they've also been doing this, and this. They're very successful given their surroundings, given their situation. And so again, I keep coming back to communicate with your counselor, but it really is, you want to build a relationship with the counselor, and your counselor wants to build a relationship with the students because then they can be your advocate. They can be your advocate when it comes to admissions. They can be your advocate when it comes to, hey, we've offered this person X number of dollars as a scholarship, but if we could get just a little more, I think it would be doable for this student. Here's why I want them. And so if we've never really talked to you, then we think like, well, that was the scholarship you were awarded. If we hope you can come, but if you can't, I don't know how to go to a committee and try to get you more money. So yeah, the GPA is, obviously, if your GPA is a 1.3, probably don't go to apply. But if you are in the ballpark, absolutely apply. If you're in that ballpark too, let's say you've got a 2.5 and we are accepting all the 3.0s. We have a couple of options that are not an immediate acceptance. We have a Baylor Bridge program. We have a really fun program that's called Baylor Verto. And that program allows an incoming freshman to study abroad. You might be in Italy. You might be in Dublin, Ireland. You study abroad for one semester, you do your best, and you bring that GPA up. So your college GPA might be a 3.0 and above. And suddenly we don't care about your high school GPA. You had a 2.5, we don't care. You made a 3.2 in your first semester of the study abroad program. By all means, welcome to Baylor. Come back to Texas and join us. So we have some safety net programs that hundreds of students join because we do get way too many applications than what we can accept. And so for some of those where we know this student, we want this student, let's give them a chance to get a good GPA and come on into the Baylor family. So again, that's something that your counselor can recommend and talk to you and find out if that's something you might be interested in doing.
I was just going to reiterate that point that that's something that maybe you wouldn't know, or maybe you didn't come across it on the website, or maybe your
Right.
counselor didn't mention it. But if you're in touch also with Baylor and you're having these conversations, it's something that the staff there will absolutely be like, what could be a really good option for you is to go and kind of, join Baylor in this way. And then, kind of demonstrate that you do have the academic wherewithal to, do well here and succeed. Because as you said, it's not about, well, you're not good enough for us. It's about, we want to make sure that you're going to come here and be successful. And that
Exactly.
the difference between what you've been able to demonstrate so far and the expectations here at Baylor isn't so great. There should be an appropriate level of challenge, but certainly you don't want to have students that don't fit in well, or that aren't, sure what to expect. So everyone's just kind of needing to be upfront about, what
Yeah.
their situation is, what the expectations are on both sides. Because as you've said, not only is Baylor, looking for and seeking students, but students are also competing for a place there. So it's important to make sure that they kind of keep that in mind as they're looking to apply and going through that process. And once again, communication is key. We want to make sure that we're in touch and that, our counselor can be an advocate for us, both at AECC and at Baylor. And the more your counselors know about you as an applicant, as a person, as a student, the better off you are. Switching gears a little bit, let's get back to research. So
Sure.
research, of course, is highly valued in a U.S. education. You already have talked about sort of how Baylor has Tier 1 research status, which is a pretty elite designation. So you mentioned that there are about 34 universities in the U.S. with that status. And just to kind of demonstrate the numbers there are over 4,000 colleges and universities in the US. So that's a pretty small number to have that designation, which is really important. So why, Elizabeth, do you think it's considered so critical to do research, and what benefits do students gain from engaging in research during their studies?
Sure. So, the benefit to students for engaging in research is obviously we hope that the research you're doing aligns with your future career goals and what you want to do with your life. College is the time to build that foundation. The research that you do at Baylor, it provides opportunities to work with professionals. You're working with people in the field. There's collaboration with other schools. There's collaboration with companies and businesses. There's collaborations with nonprofits. There's international collaborations. A lot of times our research project teams, if they're working on something to do with environmental research and how to provide clean water somewhere, they're probably going to take a study abroad trip to an area of the world that needs help with providing clean water, and they're going to set up whatever it is they've been researching on, and instruct the people in that community how to use it. These opportunities are amazing for your resume and your CV. If you've done research as a freshman, which that is an option. If you are an incoming freshman, there are research opportunities available in your very first semester. Now, I'll be honest, your research will probably be collecting data and inputting data into the research database. You probably will not be shooting a laser somewhere in your first semester, but that will come. But you can start getting established with a research team from your very first semester. That way, when you're a junior and you're looking for a significant internship that, again, could turn into a job, can turn into something really great on your CV, you're already making those connections. It's really, I think it's really fun that students can start so early. At Baylor, we have what's called the BRIC, and that's the Baylor Research and Innovation Collaborative. And it is a huge complex where research in a lot of engineering research goes on out there, engineering, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, but there's also neuroscience research going on out there. I was actually out there at the beginning of the semester and had a chance to walk around to different labs and ask what research projects were going on. And one lab is studying, when you're in a plane and you're in a cold climate, on the ground at the airport, they can come around with de-icers and get the plane all clean, ready for flying. When you're at the end of your journey and you're flying into the airport, there's nobody up there in the sky to do de-icing. And so their project is they're doing cold research. How can they keep planes safe as they're coming from the high altitudes down to land and not have the wings get covered in ice? There's another one where they are they're actually building gelatin, like Jello models, to look at how bacteria thrives or can be controlled within a model that is equal to a human leg, which I found both a little gross, but also very interesting. There's there's just that they have their own wind tunnel uh, in the research lab. There's just all kinds of things that they're doing, and that's available to our students. They're working right alongside with the professors. It's not only graduate students, it's the undergraduate students as well. And so that the brick is just that's one of the reasons we're a Research One facility, is because we offer those resources. They have an entire cybersecurity lab where you walk in and there's like 50 screens up on the wall that they're monitoring, communications and things for businesses. And they're doing that in real time, real life. The businesses are partnering with us to test out their cybersecurity systems. The goal is that they always say, see if you can break this. That's your assignment. Try to break this, because then we know what's gone wrong and what we need to make stronger. So it's fun, all these research. And the professors are amazing because they're each working in their specialty. So they're very excited about the research that they're doing. That was one of the things that impressed me when I was touring the facility, is how these professors are so enthusiastic and so excited. And they're like, yeah, and we get to bring these students in. And then the students get to be a co-author on the article that we write. Yes. So the students get publication credit because they've been part of the research team. Again, when you're looking at graduate schools, you're looking at job interviews, a publication credit on your CV is priceless.
Oh
And you'll
yeah,
probably have more than one. So, there's,
absolutely. Oh,
yeah, all
sorry, go
these,
ahead.
no, I was gonna say, some majors are more conducive to research than others. And here's where, once you are committed to coming to Baylor, and you have an academic advisor, you're kind of moving from your admissions counselor over to your academic advisor that's going to walk with you all 4 years of your Baylor career. They're going to help advise you. You let them know, hey, I know I'm, an education major, but I'd really like to do some research. And that advisor is going to know exactly what kind of project is available to you. There may be research working with, autistic children, or developing testing processes and procedures. There's always going to be something that you can be pointed in that direction and get some experience.
That's great, and such an excellent demonstration of the way that you were talking about Baylor initially, where it is a small enough community where you're seeing people
Right.
you're familiar with, but you have these big school, like massive school level facilities and resources available to you. The brick sounds amazing. I would love to, maybe someday I'll get to take a tour of it as well.
And every time I go, I'm like, wow, I would be a student here.
Yes. And one of the nice things about an education in the US is that there's a lot of, there's just kind of a culture of like an interdisciplinary aspect. So even if you are like an education major, but you're interested in potentially doing research, there are people available to you who can say, oh, well, actually, we have this project that is education adjacent, but it actually also touches on this other field. Is that something you're
Right.
interested in? And that can take you down a whole new path to, again, either learn, well, this was lovely, but actually not something I'm interested in, or wow, I had no idea that this is exactly what I was looking for. So it's
Right.
so great to have so much support in that part of your outside the classroom, but still very academic experience. Now, you have mentioned several different types of research opportunities that you've seen, or that students have been involved in, or that professors are looking, or faculty are looking to support. How does a student kind of make sense of all this? Is it really just have that initial conversation, or what does that look like for a first year student who's extremely eager but doesn't really know where to start?
We have resources laid out for you. If you're a shy student and you don't want to just go to a professor and say, what's out there? There's a whole website devoted to all of the undergraduate research opportunities. The majority of them are in STEM designated programs, but not all of them. Um, And so if a student just wants to Google research at Baylor University, you come to a website, it's divided by kind of major area.
Mhm.
There's a section on aviation sciences, anthropology, so not really STEM, biology, physics, cybersecurity, neuroscience, engineering. In it, whichever one of those or all of them, click on that box and it will show you at least 10 research projects that are looking for students to come on board with them, in
Amazing.
all kinds of different capacities. Some of them require no prerequisites. And there's a contact information at the bottom, and you can just click on that and say, I'm interested in this. It's all you have to do. And then they will reach out to you. Some of them, the higher level do have some, like you need to have taken this intro level class before beginning work on this project. But that there's everything from, I was looking at this yesterday, actually. In the engineering section, that one's usually very, very popular
Sure.
because STEM and lots of students are interested in that. It has fantastic employment rates. And so I clicked on that one. There's a project called chaotic lasers. And I was like, I need to know what a chaotic laser is. That
Yeah.
just sounds very dangerous, but also very interesting. But then there's a whole section on statistical science, which to me sounds horrible. I would not do that if you paid me $1 million, but I have talked to international students and they want to go to graduate school in actuarial science so that they
Mm.
can work for an insurance company and do the actuarial tables, which I didn't know what were, but now I do. And I also know that their starting salary is like $150,000 a year if they have that degree, because nobody wants to do it. You have to really love math. So if that's your interest, oh, there's great opportunities for that. There are literally hundreds of research projects available, and all the student has to do is go to the website and start looking at them. There's no commitment. You're just gathering information, picking the ones that you want to click, yes, send me more information. So it's very easy to get connected.
That's amazing, and such a great opportunity for students that are looking to set themselves apart at the application stage. They can talk about how they went
Right.
on to the site and found this project, and they're, intrigued. They also want to know more about chaotic lasers, and, that can really help you set yourself apart, distinguish your application, something to talk to your Baylor admissions counselor
Right.
about. So lots of great information that's just publicly available so that you can kind of better understand what opportunities exist, or what your kind of research journey might look like in a future academic year. Switching gears a little bit, once again, you mentioned that STEM is always very popular, of course, and with our international students, it is usually top of mind. There are lots and lots of questions about STEM programs and what STEM opportunities exist. So we're always interested in new academic offerings or just understanding what kind of up and coming majors or programs are out there. So does Baylor have any new programs, new STEM programs that students should be aware of, or any particular, maybe like unique STEM program that you'd like to highlight?
Sure. So cybersecurity is one of our newest. That started as a full major last year. In the past, it was a minor, but now there's because of the brick facility and the whole cybersecurity area, that's a full major. And holy cow, you all know that all of the internet scams and
Oh,
phishing and hacking into things and ransomware, that is a huge field right now. Everyone wants to hire a cybersecurity manager. So that's a great one. Um, Here is something really fun about Baylor. Baylor's located in Waco. Literally 20 minutes by car from us is the brand new SpaceX facility that is sending rockets out into space. right here in the country area of Central Texas. We can often new students will sometimes say, "Are we going to have a thunderstorm? I hear thunder." And we say, "No, no, no, that's the rockets. They're blasting a rocket off today." Because it kind of rattles the windows. But we have SpaceX in our backyard. We partner with them on so many projects, and they love to hire Baylor graduates. So many of our students get internships with them, and those internships, 95% of them roll into a full-time job at graduation. We also have Meta, that everybody knows Meta. Meta is controlling the world, but there's a Meta facility being built right now, 40 minutes from our campus, because it's in the town I live in. That's how close it is. I drive to Waco very easily. Meta's building in our town. That is going to be amazing internship and job opportunities. In fact, they're already hiring people to do remote work for them before they get the actual physical facility. But they are also partnering with our research facility for a lot of things. There's a very small company in Waco, but they are a very unique provider of panels that go on the bottom of Humvee vehicles that running over a roadside bomb and having your Humvee explode. That used to be at one of the very top number of manners in which our military servicemen and women were killed. Obviously a huge problem. This company created and patented a floor panel that does not explode. It's like having a bulletproof vest on the bottom of your vehicle. They're located in Waco. They hire our students all the time, and they have international customers. So again, if you internship with this company, you are going to interact with international customers, maybe from your home country. If you are an international student, that could be a Department of Defense job in your home country. If you wanted to return, you're going to make amazing connections right here in Waco, Texas, which is not all that famous, but the partners that we have are just huge. And we make it very easy for students to connect to those partners. We will have STEM only job fairs. Companies come to Waco, they fly in, they may not already be here. SpaceX and Meta, they're here all the time, but companies fly in, and we set up in one of our 5 different career centers. This is the STEM job fair. Students, bring your CV, come in and go to every single table if you want to. Talk to every single employer and find one that aligns with what you want to do or where you want to work. Or this company is, in New York City and I've always wanted to go. They have an internship program where over the summer I could go live in New York City. They come to us. The students don't have to go out and find it. STEM comes to us. We also do job fairs for nursing. We do job fairs for education. We do job fairs for the fine arts, all of those. But I would say that our STEM job fairs are probably the biggest. And I'm super proud that last year, 2 years ago, when we collected data, we had a 94% employment placement rate within 6 months of graduation for our STEM students. Last year, when we collected data, we jumped up to 99%. So that's for students looking for a job. Some students want to go to graduate school. They want it, or they just want to do something else. But for students who wanted to get employment after their bachelor's degree, 99% were able to be full-time employed within 6 months of graduation.
Wow, congratulations on that increase. That is
we love
impressive.
Our Career Services Center is just amazing. And they actually offer international student only services. You can go to a session on, okay, you're an international student. We want to teach you the basics of how to have a successful interview. You should know we're very in Texas, we like a really strong handshake.
Oh, yeah.
Lots, handshakes are not universal. They are not all over the world. Some countries you're going to bow. And so a lot of times the students have very weak handshakes. They're very gentle, which is sweet, but not what you want in America. You want to be like, yes, I am confident and I have a strong handshake. They teach them things like that. Um, they have a closet where you can go in and pick out clothes if you don't have a suit to wear to an interview. We can help you out with that. They do resume workshops. They all kinds of things. They have sessions for students who want to do CPT, the curricular practical
Mm.
training, walk them through that process. They have OPT sessions for the optional practical training that usually occurs after graduation. Sometimes it occurs while the student is still a student, and they
Mhm.
can teach them all about here's what you can do, here's what you can't do. We want to keep you in legal status all the way, and make you aware of all the options you have. So, yeah, we started talking about STEM things, but I'm morphing it into like career services because they really do care about our international students. The assistant director of the Career Services Center was an international student from Spain who came to
Oh,
Baylor, graduated, did his MBA at Baylor, went to work for Baylor and has never left. So, he loves it and he has stayed on at Baylor. And so he really has a soft place in his heart for helping international students because he received help.
yeah,
It's
absolutely. And it's so important to have that international experience at that level in the
yeah,
university staff and support services because they
yes,
really understand how confusing it can be to move to the US and what is expected and why a handshake is so critical to feel
right.
and have a certain power to it, and how much of a difference that can mean for students. I was going to ask Elizabeth if there were any industry leaders that you wanted to mention, but you've already mentioned SpaceX and Meta and that
Like
smaller
it doesn't
organization.
get better than that.
Yeah, I don't know that there would be any more attractive potential kind of industry leaders that you work with. But wow, those are some big names to mention. And I'm sure one of the things that you kind of mentioned at the start of our conversation when you were discussing Texas and Waco specifically, were just how much industry and technology is coming to the area. So SpaceX being there, Meta being there are great
Right,
demonstrations of that investment that top industry leaders and companies and organizations are making in Waco, and therefore connecting with Baylor as an institution and with Baylor students as individuals because they know that they're getting top tier students, very well prepared students that have access to research and resources that they know how to utilize. So
right.
that is really great to hear, and something that I know a lot of our students are starting to have over the last several years, more and more conversations about what they're going to do after their degree. Very often, years ago, when I first started, international students were thinking more about like, what will I study, and not quite thinking about, and then what comes next. But really, students and families, their support networks at home are very focused on, okay, well, if I go to Baylor, then what? And they're asking those questions earlier and earlier. And Baylor is able to provide some really impressive answers for the and then what?
Right, right. As the economy shifts, we recognize Baylor is a big financial investment for American families and international families. It is. There's no getting around that. Yes, we provide scholarships and need-based aid and try to make it work for every family, but we want to be very prepared to show families you get a very strong return on your investment. Your ROI is there. University is wonderful, but we're starting to view it more as a stepping stone to the rest of your life rather than
Yeah.
my goal is go to a university. Now I'm done. I
Yeah.
never have to think again because I have my degree. No, it's a stepping stone to get you where you want to be, to have the life you want to have, to be in the field that you want to be in, feel like you're challenged and you're changing the world. Or you're changing your very own neighborhood, but you're happy. We want, you don't want to do a job that you're going to hate. So yeah, we do try to really emphasize return on investment is very strong, which is why we highlight that employment rate because that's a good one. So,
Yeah, that's a really good one. And just to reiterate, that was 99% STEM placement employed within
yep.
6 months for those students that
Yes.
planned to go into
Yes.
the job market. Amazing,
Yes.
amazing.
Yeah.
And Elizabeth, I am glad that you brought up sort of the financial aspect or the ROI, because that is exactly what I wanted to talk about next. So obviously financial support is a huge consideration for many students. So do you want to talk a little bit about scholarship opportunities that are available for
Absolutely.
international students and how they can be considered or apply?
Yes. The good news is it's super easy to be considered for a merit scholarship.
Great.
You don't have to do anything except turn in an application. Every application is reviewed for a merit scholarship because, I mean, we know every single person submitting an application would like to get a merit scholarship. So let's just jump right past any applications. Your
Smart.
uh, university application is also your scholarship application. So we do offer merit scholarships, and they can range anywhere from $10,000 a year to we've had students who get $50,000 to $60,000 a year. Now, I mean, that's pretty good because $60,000 a year times 4 years, you're getting a chunk of money.
Yeah.
Those are a little rarer. I would say the average scholarship for international applicants is probably going to be around the 25,000 per year range. Um, but again, over 4 years, that's $100,000 that you didn't have to pay for. So that the merit scholarships come out, then there are those come out with your application decision. You're going to get
Okay.
an answer pretty quickly about merit scholarships. But then there are later scholarships that can come as well. For example, if we see that you are an engineering major, the College of Engineering and Computer Science are one of the great ones that offer freshman scholarships. And so they will put on an extra scholarship because they want you to come to their college. Normally, more scholarships become available in the junior and senior year for sure, because the freshman and sophomore year, students change majors all the time,
Yeah.
which is great. They find out what they like, they take a class with the professor and think, yes, I want to study what you're studying. So in the freshman and sophomore years, the different majors don't often offer scholarships because you might think, I want to be a psychology major. And then you find out, I really don't like that. But what I love is marketing. And you switch over to a marketing major. So once you're a junior, you're pretty set on your path. I'm a marketing major. I'm not going to change anymore. So at that time, there are a lot of departmental scholarships available. So don't think that your incoming award is all there's ever going to be. There are opportunities later on. There are also need-based scholarships. And I'm really happy to say that as we begin this new recruitment cycle for the 2025 year, our higher administration has made a new commitment to offering need-based scholarship to international students at a very equitable level to what they offer to domestic students. In the past, the need-based scholarship was not as much because American students get need-based scholarship from the federal government because their families pay taxes. International students, any need-based scholarship comes out of Baylor's money. And so they didn't have as much as the federal government, but they have said, hey, this is not fair. Our international students have the same needs as our domestic students, let's try to push that up. So this year we've been promised that we will have more institutional funding for need-based scholarships. That is also a very easy application. The student completes the CSS profile, which is kind of a national form that most colleges use. And you just, you put in things like what your parents' income is, how do you expect to pay for college? What kind of need do you have? If you got $5,000, that would get you into Baylor, you'd be okay. Nope, I need $20,000. Okay, let us know. And we'll do our best to meet at least most of that need. The CSS profile does have an application fee. Again, if you are in contact with your admissions counselor, your counselor will say, guess what? I have fee waiver codes. Let me give you one. So because they want we want the students to complete that so that we know what we can do to help. So that's an easy application as well. And then just I usually think of it as like spending money to go out to eat with your friends or go to the movies. International students are 100% eligible for on-campus jobs. We have a whole student employment office. They have a dedicated international counselor in that office that makes sure that students know what to do. They know how to apply for jobs. They give them tips for like, oh, this department loves international students. They've had really good experiences. You should definitely apply to work in the library or, whatever it is. We find that a lot of our departments on campus, such as the library, that remain open during holidays, love to employ international students because a lot of times the international students don't leave. They stay on campus, they can continue to work. And it gives that department a little bit of a break, like, okay, I need to go, do some Christmas shopping, but I know that Amin is going to be on duty, so it's okay. So they really, they like to hire international students. So that's another way that students can get paid while they're on campus.
Yeah, that's great. And it's important to note here in case just anyone isn't familiar with the difference between merit or need-based aid that we kind of talked about. Merit is based on your academic achievement. Need is based on kind of your family financials, just boiling it down to like the most basic understanding. But what's important to understand is that not every institution is able to offer need-based aid to international students. So particularly if you and your family are very concerned about the overall cost and very money conscious, and that's a big, big part of your decision, it's important to understand that seeing a university like Baylor that has invested in that and provided the resources to be able to support students who are great and would do great and who Baylor wants to invite, but the financials just aren't there on the students' side, that there are still opportunities and openings for those students to come to Baylor and to take advantage of all of the research and activity and opportunities that are there without being kind of just unable to make it work based on their family financials. Another kind of point, and we haven't really talked at all about the visa process, and that really wasn't what this conversation was about, but I will point out that getting the student visa, the F1 visa from a US consular officer is a really intimidating part for many students of the overall process. And one of the things that we advise, and that if you work with AECC, you will hear constantly from your counselor, is to really understand your financial situation to be able to articulate that to the consular officer. So if you have merit scholarship, if you have need-based aid coming your way, and understanding how your family's financials play into that, and how Baylor has contributed to that, is a really, it just shows that you're really invested in the process, that you really understand the intimate details of your own plan, and being able to explain that to an officer gives them the confidence that they need to feel like they can issue you that F1 visa. And I know that for a lot of students that experience a visa rejection, sometimes it comes down to that financial conversation. So really understanding what Baylor has to offer and how that fits into your plan can also kind of give you a little boost when you're in your very short interview time applying for your visa. Yeah. And we've touched a little bit on the last topic that I want to cover today with you, Elizabeth, already, but I want to get specific and make sure we kind of have it packaged neatly. We're going to talk about sort of adjusting to life as an international student at Baylor and what support services are offered. So generally for international students, it can be quite a challenge to adjust to a new academic environment. There's a new cultural environment they're dealing with. So what tips do you have for students at Baylor or just generally coming to the US for the first time to ease their transition?
So from the very first, I would highly recommend that once a student gets their visa, they know they're coming to Baylor, your very next step should be to sign up for our Global Bears Week. Our mascot is the bear. And so you'll often see people on campus making a bear claw because, we want to attack our, football team rivals. And all that. So they're not attacking you. It's other rivals.
Good to know.
So we have Global Bears Week, and that is an orientation session that is only for international students. So they provide airport pickup. They'll help carry your stuff up to your dorm room, help you get settled. And they give you all the information and the contacts and hey, let's go visit this dining hall. Let's go see the library. Let's go to the student employment office. They are so helpful with that, making students feel, okay, I know where everything is. I know what I'm going to do. I have my class schedule and they showed me this is the building, just to let them feel confident there from the beginning. And again, that is for only international students. I would recommend that when it finishes, it usually finishes on a Wednesday because we have an orientation Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday for all new students. And I would recommend that students just roll right over into that. It's called Line Camp because we have a very famous thing called the Baylor Line, which I'm going to tell you about just because it's super interesting. Baylor is the only university in the United States that all freshman students can be on the athletic field we're NCAA Division III. Normally you can have your cheerleaders and your football players and maybe some managers can come out on the field. The Baylor Line is all the freshmen who want to do this, and they get training for it because it's just crazy. They wear a special gold jersey with their name on it, and they line up. And when the football team is going to take the field, literally 500 students run. They lead the football team and they run as fast as they can across the field to the other end, and the football team follows them and everyone screams and cheers. And then the Baylor Line students get to sit in a special section of the stadium, and they are right behind the rival team that we're playing. So their job is to cheer for Baylor right into the ears of the other football team players. So it's students talk about when they're a senior and you say, what was your favorite thing about Baylor? They'll say, Baylor Line. I loved Baylor Line. So Line Camp not only prepares them to run the Baylor Line, but also gives them orientation. There's hundreds of student organizations on campus. Like I said, we're in the middle of Central Texas, but we have a surf club. We have, there's organizations that are academic. Right. I was surprised. There's academic organizations, there's honor societies, there's organizations for students from Southeast Asia, students from China, Latin American students. They all have organizations that promote their identity or whatever, their networking situation. So I would encourage students to start with the easy one, start with the International Students Club, and then start branching out into some of the smaller clubs and find your family friend group that you're going to do activities with. I would also recommend we have living learning centers. These are dormitories that are set up, like there's a living learning center for the nursing students where they're all in the same dorm. And so they study for tests together. They go to clinicals together. They start carpools for when they need to go somewhere to a hospital. There's a fine arts living learning center. So if you're in any of the fine arts, that dormitory is literally across the street from the Performing Arts Center. So that anytime you need to go to the Performing Arts, you're right there. You don't have to walk far.
Yeah.
But those are really good ways to become integrated into the campus. And then, of course, we have the formal support services. We have an Office of International Student and Scholar Support. They provide academic support, social support. They can get you connected to any other department that you might need. You know, hey, I bought a car. How do I get insurance? They will get you to someone who can talk to you about that and make sure you get a parking okay for being on campus and all of those little things. They help with, oh, I have a biology test coming up. It's my first biology test. I'm not sure what's expected. In my home country, I know what I'm supposed to do. What do I do here at Baylor? And they'll say, hey, let's look at some examples of old tests. And that way you feel confident that you're prepared. They'll connect students to the tutoring center, to the writing center, to the counseling center. There's kind of two levels. There's overall Baylor academic support, and then there's just international student support. We have international student ambassadors that kind of form a little group during that orientation week, and they're like, you are my children. I will take care of you. They sometimes they end up calling them, you know, like Auntie Elizabeth is my ambassador and things like that. But we have a transitions class that every student on the F1 visa enrolls in during their first semester. It is a 4-credit class that counts as an elective, but it is also how to transition into both Baylor and the American University. Here are the classroom expectations. Maybe you went to a school that didn't care if you came to class as long as you did the homework and turned it in. Baylor's not like that. We want to see your face in class all the time. And so it's good to tell the students, like, yeah, it doesn't matter if you do your homework all the time. You will fail this class if you don't show up. So they give them advice like that. And again, like, here's how we use the library databases. Here, you know, here's the career center if you want to go talk to them. So there's tons of support. And then there's just fun support. Our Center for Global Education does events and trips all semester long. They will do cultural celebrations. They do what's called International Snack Hour, where they highlight a different country's snacks and everyone can come in. They have a big open, you know, social area. You can come in and have a snack, and that's all free. And American students love this. They're like,
oh yeah,
we would like to try Chinese snacks today. So there's snack art. They do a football tailgate party, which for most of the world, American football is not a thing. It's not popular, but in Texas, it's everything. And we have what's called tailgate parties. And so they'll do a tailgate party to show the international students, like, here's how American college students all over the country are getting ready for their game day. You know, we're painting our faces with the school colors. We're learning how to do the bear claw, all of that. Halloween's coming up. They'll do a pumpkin carving day where you can come in and carve a Halloween jack-o'-lantern. We just celebrated the Asian mid-autumn moon festival.
Mid-autumn festival, yeah.
So we had the moon cakes, and you know, again, American students and international students love to come to these. We do International Thanksgiving. We do a Christmas. The whole university also does that. We do an International Thanksgiving for the entire Baylor University, where they set up tables down a main street and 2,000 students come and eat dinner together with faculty and staff. Oh yeah, it's a lot of fun. And we do Christmas the same way, but there's also the international Thanksgiving dinner, where it's it's 300 students instead of 2,000. So it's a little more intimate, a little, easier to meet new people and meet faculty and staff that come to that. So there's just all kinds of support services that are ready to go. And that I'll go back to my original best advice: sign up for the Global Bears orientation, because that will get you connected to all of these support organizations.
Yeah,
We
absolutely.
actually,
That's where it all starts.
yeah, and it's so much fun. All of us who are in international admissions participate in the Global Friendship Program. And
Oh,
so, like once or twice a month, I have my two students that I, will text and say, hey, do y'all want to meet for lunch today? Tell me which dining hall you want to go to. And so we'll meet for lunch and just chit chat, how is it going? What, anything you're having trouble with? What have been a success this week? And all lots of our faculty participate in that, and a lot of the Baylor surrounding city area, a lot of families participate in that. So they are a friendship family. They want to invite that student over for dinner. Oh, you don't have anything where to go on camp for Thanksgiving? Because it's a kind of short holiday. You're not going to fly home. We don't want you to stay on campus all by yourself. Come stay at our house. So
oh,
that, it's really, Texas is known for hospitality and friendliness. And, our state motto is friendship. So we try to live that out.
friendship
So
and football
we do love that, and pickup trucks.
and pickup trucks. Well, that is so wonderful to hear, Elizabeth. It is really, it's always one of our priorities at AECC to work with universities that really take care of their international students. So it's a top priority for us that, our students, as we, work with them so closely, and we counsel students like they're our siblings. And so as we're working with
Right,
them and kind of handing them off to their next stage, we want to make sure they're going somewhere that's really going to take care of them, that's going to show them the ropes, that's going to help ease their transition. Because it can be challenging, it can be intimidating, but when you have such a strong support network, it can be exciting and
right,
really a growth opportunity, not so much scary as, anticipation, the good feelings. And I will say,
right.
I am not personally much of a sports girl, but my recommendation to all international students would be go to a college football game. Absolutely do it. Just try it at least once. It's such a cultural experience. And even though I grew up in this culture and am like, it is so fun. I would go anytime for the
Exactly. Even
experience.
if you have no understanding of football, you do not care what's going on down on the field, just to be with all of your student body friends, and you all cheer at the same time, and you're excited, and you do the face painting, and you wear your Baylor shirt. You suddenly you have that feeling of, I am part of this university. It doesn't matter, international, America, faculty, student, we're all part of the same family, and it's so much fun. Oh,
Absolutely. And like starting the Baylor line and everything that you mentioned and kicking that off right at orientation, like that is such an incredible opportunity that Baylor offers to their students, because again, you have those big school opportunities, but that
yeah.
smaller, mid-sized school kind of tight-knit feel. So that's a really unique combination to be able to offer from Baylor. Well, I am conscious of the time. Elizabeth, thank you so much again for taking the time this Saturday morning to talk to our potential students. Is there anything else you want to share before you go?
We're waiting to welcome you to campus. Come on. We would
I
love
love that.
I really love Baylor because I think they do such a great job of welcoming and embracing the international population. So it is completely my pleasure to participate in today's interview, because I love to talk about Baylor. There's so many great things going on here. So
Yeah,
um,
and this was only about an hour. Like I'm sure there are things we didn't even come near touching on, but this was so informative, so helpful. Auntie Elizabeth,
good.
thank you so much.
You are welcome. Come in and I will take care of you. Your Auntie Elizabeth is waiting.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again so much and wishing you a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you. And to everybody who's listening today, thanks so much. Contact me if you've got any questions and we'll do our best to answer them.
Wonderful.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.